Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome to our Atlanta Thrashers franchise mode here in NHL 21. So if you guys know, a few months ago I was working on a 2002-03 build in NHL 21, and we have finally finished that to a point where it's good enough for franchise mode. So we're going to be starting up an Atlanta Thrashers franchise mode here today, which is pretty awesome. Really excited for the series. There's a lot of interesting players on our team, and obviously doing these throwback ones, it's kind of interesting just to see how players simulate in a different reality. So before we get started, there is a few new rules though for this franchise. Well, there's not really any new rules, but if you guys followed like the Dallas Stars series that we had in NHL 20 and also like the Colorado series we had in NHL 19, you would know that I basically changed the rules so they're actually back in those times. So first and foremost, there is no salary cap in this franchise mode, so we could sign as much players as we want to, as ridiculous contracts as we want. It is a little bit weird, but I do not want to exploit it because I don't want to make it unrealistic to an extent. I don't want to be like the Detroit Red Wings and pretty much sign everybody good or pick up a lot of good pieces for this team right away. So we're not going to do that. We're going to try and play realistic to the Atlanta Thrashers, and then also there's only 4 divisions in real life, so I had to basically make the 6 divisions that there was in real life back in these times into different divisions. So first and foremost, like the Metropolitan, as you can see in the standings below, has the Hurricanes, it has the Thrashers, the Devils, the Islanders, the Rangers, the Flyers, Penguins, and Capitals. Some of those teams were in like the Southeast division, so I think the Thrashers were in the Hurricanes, and then some of those teams were just in the not the Central, the whatever the other division is. I'm trying to remember all these divisions, but yeah, so that's basically what the Metropolitan is made up of. Then the Atlantic has the Bruins, the Sabres. The Europe United are going to be playing in the Eastern Conference, though, just because I wanted to make sure Columbus could play in the West, and same with Detroit, like they should be. We also have the Panthers, the Canadiens, the Senators, the Lightning, and the Maple Leafs. So that's how the Eastern Conference is made up between those 16 teams. And then in the Central Division, we got the Red Wings, Blackhawks, Blue Jackets, Stars, Wild, Predators, and Blues. The only team that wasn't in the Central Division this season was the Wild, who were in the Northwest Division, I'm pretty sure, which also had like the Vancouver Canucks, who are in the Pacific Division in this. So in the Pacific, we got the Mighty Ducks, we got the Flames, the Oilers, the Kings, the Coyotes, the Sharks, the Canucks, and the Colorado Avalanche are also going to be in the Pacific Division. So I feel like the most competitive division is probably going to be between the Central and the Pacific, because the Eastern Conference at this point in time is a bit weaker than the West. So yeah, anyways, that's about the divisions. Now also, there is no morale for this franchise mode because of the fact that if some of these players have really weird overalls and they're in certain roles, and I don't know if if we played them outside of that role, if it would kind of screw with chemistry, and chemistry could be a major problem, so I decided to turn that off. As well as there is no authentic cap penalties, obviously, because we don't want real life cap penalties from 2020 impacting a 2003 build. Also, draft pick ownership is now back to classic, so everybody has all their picks, so that's also good. And now there's also ties instead of shootouts, so we will not be going to shootouts. Basically, there will be a 5-on-5 overtime, and if the game still ends in a tie, then each team will get a point. If they lose in overtime, I think they also get a point, if I'm not mistaken. We could always change that around if I made a mistake with that. I don't know for sure. I also did change a few of the in-game rules, so you won't see these rules applied unless we actually watch a game, which we will watch the end of like a Stanley Cup playoffs game if we were to win a Stanley Cup potentially down the road. There's basically regular icing, so when the puck actually crosses the line, a player has to get there first. And there's also no trapezoid rule, so goalies get free skate pretty much out of the net, kind of like what Dominik Hasek did, like when he hip checked Marian Gaborik at one point in like 2007, I think that was. So yeah, that's basically the rules that are different for this franchise mode than most. Now, also in this episode, I'm going to just basically go over our roster, and I'm also going to go over the trading block in the draft class, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We're not going to be doing any simulating until next episode because I want your guys' feedback on potential trades and stuff so we could get this franchise mode as best as possible. So here is our roster. Let's get into our edit line screen here. We got Ilya Kovalchuk. So we do have some really good young pieces, and Kovalchuk and Heatley are the backbone of that. So Kovalchuk, 19 years of age, he's a perfect fit for our top line, which is actually pretty insane. He's playing with Mark Savard, who also is a pretty decent player. He's only 25 years of age. He's only signed for one more year, so we're going to have to probably give him a pretty big contract. But Mark Savard was a pretty good player in his prime, and then also he took a decent amount of penalty minutes, so he was kind of like a grinder to an extent. So yeah, that's Mark Savard. Then we also got Danny Heatley, of course. Heatley in real life was traded a few years after this for Marian Hossa, but I don't know if we're going to be moving on from Heatley. He's not a great fit for our top line, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I would like to keep Heatley around, but maybe we want to move him actually for somebody like Marian Hossa. He's actually a better fit for our second line, so maybe if we wanted to split up Kovalchuk and Heatley, we could always move McEachern up instead. But yeah, that's the first line. Then we also got Sean McEachern, who's a veteran. He is signed for 2 years. He's probably going to be retiring within the first few seasons. We also got Patrick Stefan, who's got only top 9 potential, but he's 22. And yeah, he could be maybe a top line center at some point if he develops a lot better than he should be. We also have Vyacheslav Kozlov, or Slava Kozlov. He's actually a pretty decent player. He's listed as a first-line forward, but he's not going to be getting first-line minutes, so we will probably be giving him like point time on the power play or something like that. So yeah, that's basically him. And he's also only signed for 1 year, so if we are playing bad, maybe we want to move on from him. In real life, Kozlov, I think, played with Atlanta all the way till the end of his career at this point. Like, I think that was like 2010. Third line wise, we got Lubos Barteshko, a 26-year-old that's not really that great. He's not bad, but he's still not really that great of a player. We also got Tony Herkic, so another guy that's a little bit older, 36 years of age, and he is signed for 1 year. He'll probably retire in year 1 or year 2, I'm assuming. We also got Brad Tapper, a 24-year-old, who's not really much of anything. He's a bottom 6 forward, but still not too bad defensively and whatnot, so he could be a good piece to keep around for a while. We also got Jeff Odgers, who's an enforcer and a perfect fit for our fourth line. He's just going to probably take a lot of penalty minutes. He's also a decent defender in terms of playing defense. I think his career plus minus wasn't that bad, so that's probably why I upped his defensive stats. So yeah, there's Jeff Odgers. We also have Pierce Farfadet, who's not really much of anything, 27. He has top 9 potential, but he's staying as a 78 because he's already 27. And he's not really a good fit for this team. Like, he's a best fit on the top line, so we're not going to be playing him up there. We also have Jeff Cowan, 26 years of age, decent fourth liner, kind of more of a grinder. So once again, one of those enforcery kind of guys like Odgers is. And then onto our defensive core, we got Francis Caberlet. He's our best defenseman, pretty much, him and Yannick Tremblay. So yeah, Francis Caberlet is more two-way defenseman, while pretty much everybody else on this defensive core is, I think, defensively minded, if I'm not mistaken. But Caberlet had some pretty good seasons where he put up a decent amount of assists, but he didn't actually make his NHL debut till he was like 26 years of age. So he is a bit of an older kind of young guy. And then we also got Daniel Charnquist, who's not really much of anything. He's a top 6 defenseman, 26 and 80 overall. He also had some good point seasons, but he was more of a two-way. Well, he was a two-way, but he was not bad, I would say, at playing defense, but he was kind of a liability. Second pairing, we got Yannick Tremblay, who's kind of underrated in my opinion. He has some good seasons in terms of passing, and yeah, he's better offensively than he was defensively, but he's not an offensive defenseman by any means. We also got Andy Sutton, who's very physical. Obviously, he's a big guy, 6'6", 245. This is where it gets really weak because he's a 78 at 27. He'd be a top 6 defenseman, but he's going to be fitting into our top 4. We also got Mike Weaver, who's only 24 years of age at this point in time. A lot of Montreal Canadiens fans might recognize that name. We also have Chris Tamer, who's decently physical, another big guy on defense. So overall, our defensive core is the main problem. During the 2002-03 season, the Atlanta Thrashers actually were 10th in terms of goals for, but their goals against was the worst in the entire league with like 280 something against. So that's going to be our problem, is keeping the puck out of the net, I would assume. Goaltending wise, we got Pasi Nurminen, who's only 27, but he's not really much of a starter. He's listed as a backup goalie, so that's one thing that we're going to have to address, is our goaltending situation down the road. And we also got Byron Dafoe, who's like way out of his he was not really that great this season. He like struggled completely. Like he was a starter a few years before this in Boston, but ever since he went to Atlanta, his like career fell off pretty much. And then depth-wise, we got Milan Helenica, who's another goaltender, 29 years of age. He's 78, and yeah, he's a minor starting goaltender, so he's not much of anything. We also got Frederick Kasivi, who's 76 overall, and he's got minor starting potential pretty much as well. So yeah, just some depth goaltenders that are probably not going to play much. Like Helenica could play, but Kasivi is probably going to be in our AHL system. And then we also have Dan Snyder, rest in peace. This guy is 24 only, and he's a top 9. He's going to we might end up playing him on our 4th line instead of Svarfidet, just because he's a better overall wise. And obviously I would like to play him. So those are our depth guys. And then in terms of the AHL, I don't think we have anybody down there, right? Well, this is the AHL anyways. We just have a bunch of no-name prospects that have like AHL potential. So there's no good prospects in any team's pool. So it's going to be even tougher for our teams to build up that prospect pool. And then goaltending wise, there you go. And scratchers, nobody. Okay, so that is our roster. Let me take a look and show you guys actually the contracts that will be up for this year as well, and then we'll show you guys the trading block and the draft class, and I think that'll be it for this first episode. So as you can see, expiring wise, we got Kozlov, Savard as the big ones, Barteshko as well as decent. Herkic probably won't come back as he might retire. Then we got Snyder and Tapper, who are both RFAs, and then Sutton, Svarfidet, Odgers are all UFAs, and then the rest of these guys are AHL guys. And goalie wise, Nurminen's contract also ends this year. Every single one of our goalies actually end this year, so we could probably pick up a new goalie next year in free agency. So yeah, that's our contract situation. Let's take a look at what's out there in terms of the trading block, just because we might want to make some trades early to help this team tank, because we are one of the we're okay of a team. Like I think we're an 82 average for overall wise, but there is a lot of the other teams that are better than us in the East, but there is also ones that are worse than us, so we should be kind of like maybe a tweener team in terms of standings. Like I think Atlanta finished 26th in the standings this season, if I'm not mistaken. So here's the trading block. So Anaheim just has some picks, nothing really interesting, but Boston on the other hand has Jeff Hackett, who was actually dealt I think from Montreal this year to Boston, or some other team to Boston. But anyways, he's 34 years of age. I don't think we would need him, but there is some good vets out there. Zaminer, McInnes, and some AHL guys. Also James Patrick, Alexei Zhitnik, and yeah, that's pretty much that. Nobody really in Calgary. Kevin Adams in Carolina is not bad. He's 28 years of age, and he's a decent two-way kind of like center. Obviously the GM, I think, of the Buffalo Sabres still, or he was. So there's Kevin Adams. Theo Fleury's also on the block. That's decent, but he's already 34 years of age, so he would be pretty much just a rental for the first few seasons, and he'd probably retire. Also, Nick Leason's not that bad. He's only 29. Vanden Bush is like an enforcer, 29 years of age as well. Chris Simon, another enforcer, and Mike Eastwood. And then Colorado has nothing on the board. Columbus has Jamie Allison, who's a 7th defenseman at best. More of an AHL top 2 in my opinion. Dallas has nothing. Detroit has nothing. Edmonton has pretty much nothing as well. Geez, a lot of these teams actually don't have a whole lot. Europe has nothing. Florida has nothing. LA has nothing. Oh yeah, and also so you guys know, Europe is basically replacing the Vegas Golden Knights because Vegas obviously didn't exist in these times, so that's the only reason they are in this thing, and it's comprised of players that played in Europe during this season, so there's going to be like Henrik Lundqvist on that team. And if you want to see the full roster breakdown for every single team, there is a video I posted on my channel way back. It goes in depth of all the players on this build, so you guys could go see that if you want to. But yeah, Nashville has Bill Holder, Carlos Garastians, rest in peace as well, Jason York, Cale Hulse, so a lot of actually defensemen on the block there from the Nashville Predators. New Jersey has nothing really. Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of young players on the block. It's mostly just going to be veterans like Adrian Aucoin, Roman Hammerlick, Kenny Johnson, Eric Cairns, and Matthias Timander. Yeah, everybody's getting rid of their defensemen for some reason. And then Dan Blackburn's on the block. That's kind of an interesting one because He's only 19, he's got medium starter potential, and he's 77. Like, he could be our goaltender of the future if we were to trade for him, but I don't really know what the New York Rangers would want from us. I guess they would rather keep, like, Richter and Dunham, I think they have, as their goaltending combination. Ottawa has nothing on the block as of yet. Philadelphia has nothing. Phoenix has nothing. Pittsburgh has nothing. Geez, nobody has, like, anything good. So we're probably not going to be making trades right away, but still. Brent Johnson and Reinhard Davis. St. Louis has an abundance of goaltenders. One of them was Tom Barrasso, but for some reason he keeps appearing in free agencies, so he's going to be a free agent goalie, but he's right at the end of his career, so he's like a really low overall. Vancouver wants to get rid of Sammy Tallow, Trevor Linden, Murray Baron, Trent Klatt, and Peter Skudra. Interesting. That's a lot of interesting players. And Washington has nothing. Okay, so that's basically the trading block. So we're probably not going to be making trades till the actual trade deadline because I didn't really see anything interesting. So anyways, now that we're done that, let's get into the draft class, show you guys what's available. So there is a lot of created prospects that I made for this franchise mode. So Eric Stahl is one of them, Patrice Bergeron being another, Shea Weber and Ryan Getzlaf being those ones as well in the top 5. This guy's an EA generated guys, so I did actually get rid of like a lot of the top prospects. So like Ratty's not in this, I'm pretty sure, and then like I think I lowered also like Shane Wright and stuff like that, so they wouldn't affect the drafts at all, because we do have players in future drafts as well, which you'll see in a few years. So yeah, there's those guys, and then there's also like Marc-Andre Fleury, who I made. He was supposed to go 14th. He's got high elite potential, but for some reason this game just decides to move him to 14th. Which is kind of dumb. So if we get into a predicament where we're in the middle, maybe we go with Fleury just because he's the obvious choice. Even though I don't really like to kind of cheat like that, but since I know their overalls and potentials, you know. And then goaltending-wise as well, there's also Pekka Rinne, who technically got drafted in 2004, but he ends up getting put in this year's draft, so he's another medium elite goaltender. We also got Corey Crawford, who I think I made a medium starter or a high starter. And then there's also Brian Elliott, Yaroslav Halak, and Jimmy Howard. So there's a lot of decent prospects in this first year draft, and there will be as well in the second year draft, because we got like Ovechkin and Malkin, I'm pretty sure. And then there's also some other goalies that year. And then for the 2005 draft, we got like Crosby and Kopitar for offense. And then in terms of goaltending, I think there's also a couple goalies. So there is a lot of good prospects to go around. So if we make some tanking moves, we could end up picking up one of those pieces, which would be pretty awesome for this team. I think that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode, if I'm not mistaken, unless there's anything else I want to show you guys. Oh yeah, I might as well show you guys how bad the free agent pool is, because I had to literally manually lower pretty much everybody that appeared in free agency. So the best players available in free agency are now high AHL top 6 forwards, so literally there's like nothing to build your team up with right away off the gate. So there's Tom Barrasso, like I was saying, but he's a 75. He was going to retire at this stage, so it didn't make sense really to sign him for any team, I don't think. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this first ever episode of our Atlanta Thrashers franchise mode. So I'd like you guys to leave any feedback and opinions below for future episodes. And anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.